Friday to pretty much. Tuesday, Thursday. Not bad. Oh, my Wednesday. I didn't. I on campus. And went home. Oh yeah. So at the end of the winter, we practice. Oh, so I'm gonna have to get out of here. But not like hey, we'll see what happens. I don't have too much going to go into that. I mean, I could
All right, thank you everyone for joining us on time here tonight. We do have some people who are still rolling in, and so we will look to start the session here at 6:35 p.m.
just the shoes. Just the
Yeah.
I just want to be honest.
Actually,
Where did you go? That's awesome. Congratulations. What program? You should tell William.
I've been emailing.
For law school. Yeah. Yes.
So.
Maybe I gotta go in the shop. What's our last? So I did. There's any one of us. I had a bunch and. Yeah, yeah, of course. Oh, there's tomatoes and leaves. Maybe there's five.
All right, everyone, we will be starting our meeting now here. I'm calling the session to order. First, I'll seek a motion for approval of the minutes of cycle 7. I see a motion from Holly. Do I see a second? I see a second from here. Austin. All right. And so is there anyone who objects to moving towards a vote on the cycle 7 minutes? Seeing none, we will go ahead and move to a vote. All right, can you get that posted in the chat? Huh? Yes, and a reminder that this will be our first attendance vote of the night, so make sure to get your vote in so you have that on record. Do we have it in yet? All right, and now the vote is up in the channel. You'll have about 2 minutes to get your vote in on yes if you do approve the minutes, no if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. And another reminder, our quorum is 31 for this evening. Yeah, like I'll do my third one here, so if you just want to. Cool. Has everyone voted on this matter that would like to do so? And is able to do so? Yeah. All right, well, seeing we are at quorum, I'll go ahead and close this vote. And with a vote of 38 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 1 abstention, this motion clearly passes. All right. Oh, you know what? Let's get a clap in. Yeah. It's just the minutes, but that doesn't mean we don't have cause to celebrate. All right. And now we will go on to the next item on our agenda, a guest speaker here, Dr. Annie Cocobobo, President of the University Senate. Annie, you will have 20 minutes that I'll put on the timer, and then we'll have time for a Q&A after.
Okay. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I teach in Slavic, German, and Eurasian studies, and I teach a class on vampires. That maybe I don't know that I recognize any of you from that class, but that is my claim to fame.
And sorry if I could just, also for our guest speaker presentation, we're going to go back to some older Senate traditions. And so I wanted to ask if people could close their laptops just so that we can give our full attention to the guest speaker.
Nice.
Thank you so much. All right, sorry, you can continue.
Thank you, Alessia. I don't even get that for class. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. So I'm not going to talk very long, and if anything, if I finish a little bit earlier, maybe we can have more time for Q&A, but I want to talk a little bit about the University Senate and some of our more recent initiatives, and also something that's upcoming that there are flyers about over there. So the University Senate is a very mixed body, right? We have faculty, we have staff, and we have students in it. And we all come together and try to work together, and we all have very different perspectives. And this has become known to me over time. I came in with a very faculty perspective, because that's what I do at KU, and then sort of started to see that there's a lot of other perspectives that are out there on campus, and in many ways this is both what is challenging about this body, that we have so many different perspectives, but also what I love about this body, because if we can't find a way to find common language in the University Senate, then it probably won't work for everyone, right? Whatever we're trying to do. So from this perspective, I really appreciate the work that we do. And I'm here in large part to tell you some of the work that we've done that's relevant to students, but also to hear what, if anything, you think we should be doing or talking about or elevating that is relevant to students that we're not doing. Because we can't do or be everything, but I think we should try as much as possible to address broader concerns of students. And it's very easy for a body like this that's very focused on policy. I mean, this is the main thing that we do is policy. We maintain the USRR code, the University Senate rules and regulations. And if you are curious about that very lengthy body of policy, it contains all the rules and regulations about your grades, about academic forgiveness, about absences, any number of things that regulate your experiences as students, right? And the reason we all come together to vote on it is because the faculty that give you these grades, some more liberally than others, and the staff that advise you to take classes and support you in any number of ways, have to all come into agreement around what our rules and regulations are, right? And so we maintain this policy, we work to update it and find ways to change it or, you know, add to it, have amendments, any number of things. A lot of the work that you do here is probably similar. It's just this is kind of core academic policy. And I will say, as a faculty member, I work with students all the time in the classroom, and it's been really special to be able to work with students in this other context that is more, it's non-hierarchical, and it feels more horizontal, where we're all just talking as peers, and I can take action to support a broader number of students than I'm able to necessarily in the classroom, although my vampires class is very large. I'm just going to say, I'm totally pitching it. I'm not teaching it this term, but it's a fun class for your ethics core goal. So some of the things that we've done, and again, these have come out of, these are policies that have come out of interactions we've had with students. Obviously, those of you who aren't freshmen remember last year, you remember all the protests that were taking place around sexual assault on campus. And we had occasion as University Senate leaders to talk with student protesters and any number of individuals. And one of the things that came out of that for us was to write policy directed primarily at our faculty colleagues to say that whenever a student is impacted by sexual assault, like, you have to find a way to provide supportive measures for them in the classroom. And this seems like a basic thing that is happening largely, it's already happening, but it's not always happening, and there's not always equity. And I heard from a number of the student protesters things like, well, faculty are nice and supportive, and then they'll say, like, you know, they'll be supportive, but then still expect me to turn in my quiz, or they will not understand that some of these really traumatic experiences can have an impact years later, right? That you can't put a timeline on this kind of trauma. So that was the intent of this language, and we were able to put it through the channels last year, and it's now policy. It's in Article 2 of the USRR code. And it was shocking to me that we didn't have that kind of language in the USRR code already, but we didn't, and I'm glad that it's there now. And a related policy that I hope will be, in the USRR code probably in about a month or so, because these things take a long time, right? Policy takes a long time, and it should, because it has a kind of permanence to it. But this policy is an absences policy. It's around excused absences, right? So I assume many of you do any number of things. Some of you are athletes, or you participate in theater, or you have things that happen to you outside of your control. Medical things, mental health things, any number of things. What this policy that just got approved in December does is to say that these are recognized as excused absences. And we recognize them as a university, and you don't have to go and negotiate with your faculty about this. You state it, or you go to student affairs, and they talk to, they talk to the faculty if you don't want to. But it is a way to recognize that there are reasons outside of your control for why you might be absent, and you shouldn't be penalized for those. And this one is more focused on absences. The previous one around sexual assault also addresses, tests and any number of things. But this one was more focused on absences, and it was prompted initially by one of our advisors who works with faculty advisors who works with student athletes, Susan Williams. But it's become more expansive over time because she recognized that there were other students who maybe needed accommodations. So we worked on that, and we hope to see that pass. And again, you may already be getting all of these accommodations from faculty, but the goal here is to provide some kind of equity across, some kind of uniformity, so that you all have the same experiences with your engineering professor and with your, visual art education professor in the smaller seminar context, right? Because there's just a large variation sometimes. So those are kind of the main two things that we've passed. This semester, one of the things that we're working on, at least from a policy angle, is academic forgiveness. And what that means is that if you had a semester where your grades were, for one reason or another, problematic, and you are separated from the university for a couple of years, you can drop some of those grades, and they won't permanently affect your GPA. And now we have to kind of talk and think more about this, but I've gotten more inquiries around this idea of, and some of them from faculty who will write and say, well, I had to give an F to this student, and I just think it was a situation outside the student's control, and they got this grade, but I don't think it should permanently, affect their record. So we've heard those kinds of comments, and we're hoping to, again, take action with policy on that front too. And that is still forthcoming this semester. And then finally, this is largely, this shared governance event stems out of a shared governance resolution that we passed in the University Senate in the spring, just around faculty and staff and students coming together and saying, we feel too many decisions are being made without us, and there are things happening to us and not with us. And is there a way that we can be more active participants in crafting the future of the university, and having our voices be part of the decisions that we see take place? And so we ended up, and a lot of this had to do with COVID. And again, we have different perspectives on COVID. A lot of what I heard over those years from my faculty and staff colleagues at times too had to do with feeling like I have a family, I have unvaccinated children at home. It's really hard for me to feel like I have to go into the classroom and teach in person and be exposed, and just a lot of anxiety, right? Because you don't know how you'll respond to COVID. I hear any number of variations of different stories on it, but there was just a lot of distress around that. And so, and just, change is hard. There are a lot of changes happening across the university, and And I think just some sentiments across campus of people feeling like these changes didn't happen with us. We were not helping shape them. They happened to us. And how can we have things happen with us and not to us? That was sort of the overarching message that we all were able to come together in. And again, because it's the University Senate, we can't just say, we're upset about this one specific faculty issue. We tried to make it broader so that it extended beyond like kind of either one specific academic thing or what, it was about the experience that we had those couple of years. And I'm grateful that leadership at the university have been responsive, and we worked with them to sort of narrow down the scope of this initiative to about 4 charges. And the first one is this thing. And the big question we're going to be asking is, what does it mean to be an exceptional learning community? And we really want to know. And again, we want to answer that question with you. We think it's really important than how we define what it means to be an exceptional community, have student voices as part of that process, that we understand from you what it means. And so we're hoping to see as many of you as we can. This is like open to all campus. We don't know how many people we'll get. But it would be a good problem to have too many people and find ways to accommodate you, because that is not a problem we have very often these days. So I hope that we see as many of you as possible, and certainly you as senators, I hope to see some of you, because I think student voices will be really important in how we write this vision, because the purpose of being an exceptional learning community is you and kind of how you learn and the kind of experiences you have here, and how included you feel despite your identities or because your identities. So, and then, following phases are more kind of aimed at identifying roles and responsibilities, what different entities on campus do, how they participate through decision-making, like the role of students also in decision-making at the university would be an important thing to identify. And then, eventually we'll try to see if we can find a little bit more transparency around decisions. Maybe there can be a website where decisions that are happening can be listed, and there can be an opportunity for all of us to weigh in some way, right? And again, this is guided by roles and responsibilities, right? If I'm, I don't know, a faculty member, maybe I should have some say around curriculum matters, right? This is a very basic one. In shared governance. And shared governance is normally identified in the context of faculty only. We're trying really hard to expand it and make it more inclusive of different groups, because a lot of the literature is very faculty centric. But I think in some ways KU is doing well in the sense that we do have a really robust staff senate too. And obviously we have a student senate, and we have a university senate that brings us all together, that can feel like a much more messy and co-ed body. But I think it's important that we have it, that we come together and sort of face our differing perspectives and all feel entitled to express the different perspectives that we embody. And then the final thing that we're hoping to do there is to try to again integrate our voices more into the strategic planning and the financial planning of the university. Obviously KU's had budget problems forever, and this is something that we hear about and we worry about, and it's just all very vague and concerning. And I'd like more specifics and statistics around my concerns. So that's one thing. And then, strategic planning is about the vision and the future of the university. And again, our voices should be part of that. And we were just responding to some concerns from community members that they felt a lot of the planning was happening a little bit at a divide. And again, I think COVID exacerbated all of these divisions. So yeah, that is kind of in a nutshell what we're trying to do. I don't know how I'm doing with my 20 minutes. I try to talk really fast.
Yep. We have about 6 left.
Okay. I think I said everything. I think I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you very much.
I guess I would ask, if there are things that like we should be aware of, student concerns that we should try to integrate into our agendas and elevate and talk about, that would be important. And any questions you have, of course.
Yeah, so as of right now, we have 6 minutes for questions. Obviously, we can extend that. But I'll go ahead and start accepting questions. Just to notify everyone, we have the catch boxes up here and the mic should be back there, one on this side, one on the other side. So the first question I see is from Holly.
Hi, Annie. My question is for those students that can't make the time, the 1 to 5, because unfortunately that actually comes on the day that we have to deliberate for the student fee. And obviously quite a lot of our really involved students are on that. Is there an email or some way that students can contact you if they have concerns or ideas? Could they maybe, like, is there an overall email? Could they maybe just email you or?
Could just email me.
Okay.
AKOKOBOBO. My last name is pretty easy to remember at ku.edu. I will also say, like, once we kind of work to create a little bit of a vision statement, we'll disseminate that out and have kind of more and if it seems like there's a large number of students who can't make it, who would like to make it, we're happy to have like an additional visioning thing to accommodate, different people. Where there's a will, there's a way. We struggle with people not necessarily like being interested in participating, but if there's an interest in participation, we are here for it. And I'm sorry this conflicts with, it's inevitable right now. Also, it's like a 4-hour event, so I feel like something like that is such a big block of time.
Any other questions up here? There's for Zod and then Sam. Sam, did you raise your hand first or? Okay, for Zod and then Sam.
Hello. So when it comes to the mental health crises that people are going through, how much of that is helped to navigate students via the SAC or the Student Access Center for those that don't know?
Yeah, and that is an important part of the policy too, where we, that is another avenue, right? It's just that it's interesting. This is something I've been thinking about a lot, not in my Senate role, but just as an instructor, because I think that sometimes students have mental health challenges, right? That they may not necessarily have sort of come to terms with or be acknowledging or think that they should get accommodations for. Like I've had students over the years who really don't do well on timed exams. They have tremendous anxiety around that. And then if you give those same students the exam as a take home, they do extraordinarily well. And it's not about what they know, but I think it's just that anxiety that they're struggling with that is not apparent to them. So I think, the Student Access Center is really important, and that is another avenue for students. But if they're not necessarily aware or, willing to go there, this provides kind of just a general acknowledgement that here's a bunch of reasons why you might have an excused absence.
Thank you for that. Anyone else on the floor before I go to Sam? All right, seeing none. Oh, Chris, we'll go to your question first. And then we'll do
Last.
Oh, you want to do last? Okay, then we go to Chris next year.
Thank you. I understand a lot of students were concerned last semester about the centralization of academic advising, especially honor students. Did the University Senate have any role in that decision?
No, we did not have a role in that decision. And we have, we've dialogued with the administration around it. I've heard a range of perspectives on it. Some students saying that it helps them to have the centralized advising, and others feeling like they're losing something. And I think the honor students had a very specific structure of advising that, I think was probably working well for them. I know that there's been efforts to sort of sustain that at the university despite the changes. But yeah, no, these are decisions that we did not make.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any other questions from the floor? Oh, I see a question from Vander.
Thanks for coming tonight. My question is in terms of making decision and have the community to weigh on the proposal, anything that you propose for the Student Senate and for the University Senate as well. I don't know if you've done this before. Do you have any thought about posting any proposal online and specify or state specific period of time for the community to weigh on for the proposal before adapting or before the final decision on the proposal?
Yeah, no, I
Okay,
think
just, yeah, I'm
yeah,
just
I think
curious.
that's a really good idea. And so on this one, not yet, because we haven't had a work product yet. But I think what you're suggesting is that if, once we have the visioning and we craft something, we disseminate it and then have a portal where everyone can give comment. And we have done that for the faculty senate, like to give you an example. And this is strange because we don't have a ton of powers, but we had authority over the general research fund for faculty. And we want to change it because it's been unchanged since the 1990s. And we changed it and decided to have a feedback form on the website. And we heard from very many faculty that wanted us to go a different way. So we are going a different way now. Or why am I
you.
recognizing people?
Holly, did you have another question? All right. If the mic will work. Or we can, seems like there's another mic.
But like any decisions that are made by University Senate that we vote on, Annie sends them out via email and they get sent to everybody that has a KU email. So if you ever get an email from University Governance, that's coming from Annie and they go out for how many days? It's like,
Yeah, so any policy changes, we
Yeah.
have to send 7 days in advance that we're considering it. And then once it's passed, we give a 21-day comments time.
yeah, so if you see those emails, you should read them and because they directly affect us. And then
Yes.
you can email like your thoughts and you can attend, anyone can attend University Senate, even if you're not a university senator, like it's open to everybody. So that's a way to be involved. And that's the way that University Senate is like reaching out.
And we try to have, whenever we have guest speakers, we have those open. So for instance, Carla Leeper, the new vice chancellor for communications at the university, who is working on improving our communications, is coming tomorrow at 3. So, that's all via Zoom. So, but it's all open if you're interested.
All right, any other questions on the floor? I see one last one from Farzad. Reminder, we have like 20 seconds left,
Okay,
but we can
I'll
get to your
try and be
question.
quick.
Extension 5 minutes from Chris. Do I
Thank
see a
you, Chris.
second? I see a
Appreciate it.
second from Holly. All right, is there anyone who's opposed to a 5-minute extension of speakers' time? Seeing none, time is extended. Farzad, you can go ahead.
So I'll be honest, the only reason I read those emails is because I'm in Senate and I can practically guarantee you nobody else actually reads all of them, if at all. So one question I have is how much control does the University Senate have over potentially syllabi that professors have of including this policy beforehand for students that might, like you said, not know that they're going through sort of mental health crisis and other better avenues of getting this policy communicated to the general body?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, again, what we're going to do for this policy specifically, because we've gotten question, is we'll have an open forum about it too, before, when it's finalized. We were thinking we'd have like an open forum, just informationally with student affairs and some faculty where we talk about what it means in practice. Because, also like a lot of faculty are already accommodating. And so they're like, well, do I have to change what I'm providing? It's like, no, if you're already doing what you're supposed to be doing, this policy shouldn't be affecting you. So we hope to have an informational session around that. Yeah, I mean, the emails are, I know a lot of people don't read the emails, but you got to read them sometimes. And we try to send multiple ones, right? If we're really changing policy. But remember, the USRR, like your grades, all of your academic policies are there. And it doesn't, we're not going to be changing the grading system at KU anytime soon, right? But it matters, I think.
Do you guys have control?
Oh, could you make sure to ask that into a mic so we all can hear? Yeah. And are there?
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
So right now, because of the accreditation, like the Higher Learning Commission is an accrediting body for the university. We are working on making sure that our syllabi are more clear. So what we're going, like, and Holly and Sadie, and I don't know if Alessia too, are in a working group around a policy about syllabi and the kind of information that should go into syllabi for students. And again, and it's any number of things, but I think some of the mental health concerns that you're raising, like, are important ones to go there. The amount of work, the learning outcomes, different things. So it's a big, long list of things, but I think Holly and Sadie will be able to give you kind of ongoing updates on that. We have a meeting coming up on that. I think it's Friday. Yeah.
And then just to go off of what Alessia
let
said.
me,
Oh, okay. Do I not need to speak it in to the
Huh?
mic? Am I good?
oh, for the
Okay.
question?
Yeah.
Yes, please do.
Okay, just for the record, the question was, does the university have influence over syllabi for including policies like the aforementioned one?
Yes. All right, brilliant. Are there any other questions on the floor? Before I go to Sam? Yeah, all right.
I'm gonna dovetail off Chris's question earlier. So K-State has both I know K-State has a dedicated pre-law advising program. They also have dedicated pre-health advisors. I don't know if, I know KU doesn't have dedicated pre-law advisors, which makes the path essentially like it's useless. I dropped pre-law because there's no point. Is there like any plan to like have that, or is there any discussion or any working group on maybe introducing those to KU?
Pre-law and
Pre-health, like making those tracks, like having dedicated academic advisors for those tracks.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it, but I can find out. And what's your, I mean, I can tell maybe.
I was just asking if you thought about that, just
I have
dovetailing
not
off
heard
Chris's.
anything.
Okay.
To that effect,
Any
but
other
that seems important, and I assume that some of the advising and restructuring, which is aimed at kind of providing more individualized support for students, would perhaps do that. You know, but I know that that's still kind of evolving, so I don't know.
Any other questions here on the floor? Oh, did you have another or? Okay. Any other questions? All right, I think we're good. Thank you very much, Annie. All right. Very much. We can. I know Holly was. Double check. All right, and as a reminder, if you are interested in attending that vision event, we do have some flyers at the back of the room where the pizza was, if you'd like to get QR information in relation to that. I'm now going to be seeking a motion to move Sadie Williams' officer report to the end of our officer reports, just so that we have the time there. Oh, I see a motion from Angela. Oh, Danae was gonna read it. All right.
Sadie's on the way back though. Yeah.
Danae, would you like to read it or would you want to motion it? All right, so then we will just be going on to the next item on our regular agenda here, which is our officer report from the student body president, but not really.
Yeah. Okay, so State Higher Education Day is Wednesday, February 15th at the state capitol in Topeka, and we'll be advocating for student issues at KU as well as in Kansas as a whole, alongside our peers at other universities in Kansas. And something different that we're doing is we're actually going to be taking some of you guys with us. So we have an application for this that just opened. Well, it's not open yet, but it's going to open by the end of the meeting today. And that application will be open through next Friday, so February 3rd by midnight. And then we as the staff and some of our advisors are going to meet and we'll pick you guys, and we'll have the team picked by February 8th. And so then we'll spend the next week like working with all you guys on how to kind of approach the senators and representatives and what all we'll be doing. So just like a little training. Okay. Sadie has also been tasked by KBOR to compile and propose a pitch to bring dual credit courses to all high schools in Kansas, and we'll be working with the other KBOR student body presidents and the Board of Regents, as well as leaders in K-12 and higher education in the legislature to craft this. And lastly, following her meeting with the provost this past Monday, she'll be working to bolster student rights in the classroom.
Well, I mean, we could have questions. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Sadie individually there, because yeah, I wouldn't want to have Danae answer for Sadie there. So we'll go on to the next item on our regular agenda, which will be my officer report. Sam, if you will metaphorically take the chair, I'm just gonna give it here. So for my officer report, I will echo what Annie said. The University Senate will hold its first spring meeting tomorrow afternoon at 3:15. Make sure to attend if you're interested in what's happening in that body. We're working to verify court membership in the Student Senate ahead of the spring general election to ensure that the judicial branch is ready to fulfill their responsibilities, as is, part of the election code. So we're getting everything verified for that right ahead of the intro to elections, which will be the 1st of February, when people can start to first apply for candidacy. We will meet with the Memorial Corporation Board on the 4th of February, 2023. To have our quarterly meeting. If you have anything related to the Memorial Corporation, related to unions or dining or anything like that, make sure to reach out to us ahead of that meeting so we can bring any concerns or suggestions to that board. We will be reconciling the legislation tracker, and I think Sam will touch more on that in his officer report, to include all of the legislation that came from these last few cycles. And finally, I will be hosting a Student Senate orientation again this semester within the next few weeks to allow new senators and, just returning senators to learn about how Senate works and how we can, best utilize this space to advocate for students. And with that, I'm going to donate the rest of the time on my officer report to Camden Baxter to give a notification on New York Times.
Sorry, everybody, I'll be quick. If you're like me, you probably don't read the student affairs emails, but you got one last week or earlier this week that's important. It's how to access your free New York Times subscription. That finally got done. It took forever, but it's available. If you guys have any questions about it, let me know. You should totally do it. New York Times is great. Thank you.
All right, any questions for me before we go on to the next officer report? Awesome. All right, next we'll go on to our graduate student body president, Holly Hall.
I don't have too much to say because Alessia and Sadie's officer reports talked about things that I could also talk about. But I guess over break, I reached out to every single graduate student organization at KU, and I told them about Wednesday night funding, and I've set up a few meetings with some of those groups. The Graduate Student Advisory Board meets next Wednesday. We've got a couple members in the back, and then we meet the following Wednesday with the provost. In the meeting with the provost this past Monday that Sadie and I went to, we discussed the lack thereof of reaching out to Peruvian students with everything that's currently going on in Peru. And that has been remedied, and the Peruvian students have now been reached out to via ISS and given the support that they need. And I think that's everything.
All right, any questions for Holly? Seeing none, thank you, Holly. All right, and our next officer report we have here is from our Chief of Staff, Sam Sokolow. And whether you want to do it up here. Good.
Do it here is fine. Okay, first off, could I get, is Samantha Ghali here? Samantha, cool, okay. Could I get a motion to acclimate Samantha Ghali as a graduate student senator?
I see a motion from Holly and a second from Bander. All right, is there anyone who objects to a motion of acclamation for Sam? Going once, going twice. Sam, you are now acclimated as a new replacement senator.
Great. So anyway, I'm working on constitutional updates. Basically, so we're going to get, right now it's updated through cycle 4, but it should be with the ledge tracker fully updated. It'll be updated up to date entirely up until this cycle, either this week or definitely by the end of next week. Absolutely, for sure. So I'm also working on ensuring the Elections Commission is set up and ready to go. Currently, we have 2 people on the Elections Commission. There's 5 slots open. Is Bryn Montier here? Is Bryn here? No, okay, that's okay. I wasn't sure if she's gonna come tonight or not, but her and Rathika Char are the only two people on it. We need 3 more people. So if you don't plan on running for Student Senate next year and you'd like to still be in a capacity and help out with the elections, that would be dearly appreciated. We're trying to jump on the ball in this early, make sure that the schedule's set up, everything's rearing ready to go. It's an extremely important position that makes sure that everybody's following the rules and whatnot, and also it sets the deadlines and stuff and the debate schedule and everything like that. Anyway, so yeah, if you aren't running next year or you know somebody who would like to serve in Senate in this way, can I get a motion just for 1 minute? Cool.
Time, second over here from Austin. Anyone who objects?
So either if you're not running or you know somebody who would like to be involved in Senate, but like in a more minor capacity, that would be really nice to fill that elections commission up. Also, there's a women's basketball game against K-State this Sunday at 5 p.m. Tickets there, it's free. You can go for free. I think it would be really nice, and we talked to Exec too a little bit about this, to show up in Senate as kind of, if anybody is free and would like to come, you can show up, support the Lady Jayhawks, and also take maybe a picture, post something on Instagram. Who knows? It's not about that though. It's about, but just a disclaimer. But yeah, it's free. If you'd like to show up, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna bring some friends. Just text me. You can come to me after the meeting, and I'm gonna set up a big group. We could do carpools and stuff for it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So yeah.
All right, I saw a question from Bander and Zachariah. Okay, could you get a mic?
Yeah, not to like just, so even if.
All right, thank you for that point of information, Zachariah and Bander. Could we maybe get a catch box to the back of the room? Could someone? Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you, Anthony.
my question about the
Oh,
ticket,
that
from where we can get the ticket, the free
Right.
ticket. Oh, okay, sounds good, thanks.
All right, awesome. Do we have any other questions for Sam? All right, thank you very much, Sam. All right, now we'll go to the next item on our agenda here, which is an officer report from our treasurer, Turner Seals. But I believe you're giving that, Zachariah? All right.
Good morning, everyone. So the only updates Turner wanted to give me were just about funding. So it's funding season, money season. We're about our money, so money talks. If you're not about that, then that's your loss. So we have line deadlines coming up on February 1st. So if there's any clubs or any organizations that are looking to apply for funding for their events for next year, so that's 2022, 2023, the form should literally be smack dab in the middle when you open Raw Talk Central. It should be called line funding. It's a strike deadline of 5 p.m. CST on February 1st. So be sure to send that application in and apply for all of your events so you don't have to go through Wednesday night funding or DEI general funding or any other means of funding. Aside from that, it's all Turner had, and he looks forward to being here next time.
All right, thank you for that delivery, Zachariah. As with the Student Body President Officer Report, please relay any questions you have in regards to those finances to Turner. All right, and now we'll move on to the next item on our agenda here, which is an officer report from our Outreach Director, Angela.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you all made it out tonight. So if you don't know me, my name is Angela. I am a senior and I'm the outreach director. I used to be the policy director, but last semester I got changed to outreach. So what I did over break was come up with a cycle by cycle, week by week plan for outreach efforts that we're going to make this semester, all the way up to elections, at which point we'll pivot because there'll be a whole new Senate by then. So I won't walk you through all of it because that would be too long, but in the interest of keeping everybody in the loop, so far I've worked with Sadie and Alessia to draft an outreach email to promote the Concord positions and election commissions positions as well. I'm working with Holly to do outreach to different grad programs so we can get more grad representation here. And then next week to kick off elections on February 1st, we're going to have a hot chocolate event just out here in Jayhawk Walk, you know, like where all the Jayhawks are on the floor, the hallway that we all walk through to get here. We'll be tabling from 2 to 4, just free hot chocolate. We'll have like snacks and cookies and stuff. So I hope to see you there. Bring a friend. And then the following week, we'll have tentatively, there will be a guest speaker for full assembly from Jerry Moran's office. They're trying to recruit people into their internship program. So that one is in the works. We'll keep you posted on details as they come. So that's kind of what it's looking like for the next 2-ish cycles. And if anybody has outreach ideas, wants to talk to me, meet up, I'd be more than happy to do so. Just let me know. Any questions?
Any questions for Angela? All right, thank you very much, Angela. And last but certainly not least, a new face here, but kind of an old face in Student Senate. We have our Chair of Student Rights and Affairs, Austin Christ.
Hey, what's up, guys? Can you hear me? Okay, well, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Austin Christ. I'm the newly elected Chair of Rights and Affairs. The only thing I have to announce is that Rights will now be finally catching up with the rest of Senate in requiring exclusively in-person attendance for our council meetings. So Rights people take note. See you Wednesday. But yeah, I'm looking forward to working with you guys, and I think it's going to be a great semester. So, anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Austin? All right, not seeing any. Thank you, Austin. We're getting back into the hang of it, y'all. All right, and so now we will move on to our regular agenda here. We have 3 pieces of legislation to go through. The first one being Senate Bill 23-43, a bill to amend Title IV of the Constitution to create the Director of Justice to provide support and administration to the Student Senate courts. I'll go ahead and present that. So Sam, if you could take the chair. Yeah. Whenever you're ready. All right, so this here is a bill to amend Title IV of the Student Senate Constitution to create the Director of Justice to provide support and administration to the Student Senate courts. So as you just heard, the Student Senate courts are in fairly dire straits in terms of leadership. And so whereas the judicial branch of the Student Senate does not have clear leadership and organization, and whereas the judicial branch is unable to support Student Senate courts without many hours of assistance from advisors rather than student leadership, and whereas the Student Senate courts are responsible for Student Senate election integrity and administration, and this takes a lot of effort on the part of court members, and whereas we should favor a balance of powers in our student government that allows for these branches to each thrive, and whereas a student director position could undertake the responsibilities of managing this branch of government and ensuring accountability for other branches, therefore be it enacted that the Student Senate shall create the position of the director, and this position shall come into effect upon the election of the first Director of Justice in spring 23 general election. Therefore, be it further enacted that the Senate Constitution be amended to reflect the following changes. This amended would be inserted after Title III, Article 2, and all descending articles would be amended to reflect that numeric change. Title IV, Article 3 here would be this new addition that they shall have the following job responsibilities. The Director of Justice shall serve as the Chief Administrator of the Senate courts and will be responsible for ensuring that all responsibilities are carried out in accordance with the Constitution. The Director of Justice shall be responsible for coordinating monthly meetings of the Senate Constitutional Court and Elections Commission to discuss and attend to any business received by the courts. The Director of Justice shall serve as a non-voting member of the Student Executive Council and report on any judicial branch matters being pursued by the courts each cycle. The Director of Justice shall meet with Student Senate Judicial Branch advisors to provide updates and coordinate election-related matters before the next meeting of the Senate Elections Commission. The Director of Justice shall maintain awareness of Student Senate activities and investigate any activity that might be in breach of the Constitution. The Director of Justice shall be responsible for approving or denying all expenses that are requested by candidates during Senate elections. Could I get like another 2 minutes?
Cool. 2 minutes. All right. We got Evan and then a second from Austin. Any objections? Cool.
All right, they're responsible for approving and denying all expenses that are requested by candidates during the Senate elections. This is currently done by our Elections Commission Chair. And then the Director of Justice is responsible for meeting with the student body president, chief of staff, speaker of the assembly, if any case is brought to the student courts regarding the executive or legislative branch respectively. And then finally, I just have an input here for the declaration of candidacy form for the Director of Justice must include the signature of the candidate. Any questions? I also have an amendment that I was looking to put forth to this bill, but I can wait until after questions for that.
I'm gonna go Danae Camden. So Danae.
Will this be a added paid position or like stipend, or will it be?
Ideally, it would be an added paid position, similar to when we elected, or rather approved the speaker position last semester. This would be approved during the fee review process of adding that to the student senate budget.
The next question is how much are they getting paid?
Well, that's up to the fee review committee. What I would recommend would probably be 15 hours at the same $10.50 rate.
What's that over a year?
Huh?
What's that over a year?
Let's see.
150 times 4 is what, 600 a month?
I think it
8 months.
would probably be around like 7,000 over the course of a year. Just extrapolating.
Anybody else? Okay,
I also
we got
wanted
Polly
to-
with the motion.
Oh. Yeah, I wanted to look at introducing amendment because, you know, it was brought to me last time that maybe the Students' Assembly would like to select their speaker as a sort of internal election. And so I wanted to also introduce an amendment to make it an internal election within the courts instead of an election brought through the student body. I just think like in hindsight that it might take away from the president VP election. And so maybe it would be better to have it be an internal court election instead.
Great. I guess we need to extend time then, correct? To do on this amendment. All right. How much would you like?
Well, I could make the motion to amend and then we could see if it stands.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, can I get the text off my computer? real
Yep.
All right. All right. So for my amendment that I'd like to propose, I would take out this section here related to candidate registration. And I would instead add the Director of Justice shall be a duly appointed member of the Student Senate courts and shall be elected on the day of joint Senate by members of the Constitutional Court and the Elections Commission. The Chief Magistrate of the Constitutional Court shall report the results of this election at the joint Senate. Any questions in regards to the amendment or motion to approve?
Yeah, Holly with a motion to approve. Chris, okay, Chris, motion to approve, second by Holly. All right, any objections?
To the amendment.
To the amendment, correct. Okay, with no objections to the amendment, this amendment passes and is added onto the bill. Right, do we now have any speeches in opposition or affirmation? Okay, we have a motion from Holly. All right, to vote. Okay, a second by Chris. Any objections to moving to vote? As there is none, we'll now move to a vote. Daniel, give them out 1 minute, 30 seconds to vote on this.
I should just stay up here, right?
Yep,
Next
go
bit
ahead.
too.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Stop. Oh, okay. It's 43. All right, cool. Anthony votes yes. Okay, the vote is up. Give you about a minute.
I didn't have any questions on it. I'll check it out.
Yeah. Let me know when we're looking good.
I'll also answer, it doesn't account for fringe, but it looks like the total, if it was a 15-hour position, would be $7,560.
The equivalent. You divide that by 42,000.
Divide it by 42,000.
Okay, we're gonna stop the vote. If anybody else needs to vote, let me know. Nope, okay.
18%.
So, all right, it's 38-1, passes almost unanimously, but 39-1, okay. This bill passes.
Sam. Sam?
Yeah.
It's my bill, the next
Okay.
one. Sorry.
Okay, how much do you need?
Right, probably about like 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, I'll give you 4.
Yeah, so next item on the agenda here, Senate Bill 2023-44. All right, ready to go?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, so this is the bill that we saw in regards to the referendum question this last cycle here. That the student wages of all Senate fee entities fall under the jurisdiction of the Senate, and where student voice is important to consider during the Senate fee process. And where a student Senate must pay its student workers a living wage as defined by our student constituents and their lived economic experiences. Therefore, be it enacted that the student Senate shall place a referendum question on student wages on the spring 23 general election ballot. And that the referendum question shall read as follows. As it was amended in the last cycle, it's now saying that the cost of living has increased in Lawrence, Kansas as a result of increases in rent prices and inflation this year. Student Senate fee entities and departments are departments on campus who receive student fee dollars for the primary purpose of providing services to the student body. Watkins Health Center, for example, would be classified as a student Senate fee entity. Do you believe that the student Senate should increase student wages across all student Senate fee entities 15 an hour with an associated required campus fee increase of blank dollars? Yes or no? So in regards to the questions this like last semester that were brought up in terms of the total cost, we weren't able to get a clear answer of that in time here, since we are just now sort of receiving fee entities proposals in regards to like what they're hoping for the next year. So we won't be able to give a dollar amount increase in regards to the amount of fee dollars that this will be. But I also wanted to propose maybe amending this down to $10.50 an hour, because it really is more in line with the direction that our campus is going to be going. And it was a clear platform goal that we had in the last spring to make sure that students are paid at minimum $10.50. And so I think that that might be a better use of this referendum to instead do $10.50 an hour, since at the end of the day, 15 might be too much, especially if we look at like how much that's going to cost the student fee.
Okay, so we have a motion from Holly. Okay, Chris, all right. So we have Chris and then Camden. Okay,
So are you wanting to take off the part at the end with an associated part campus fee, since we don't have that covered?
Yeah, ideally it would be, yeah, just the $10.50 an hour with no added context.
okay, Camden's, yeah, sorry.
Oh, there's one right in, yeah, whichever direction you go.
Thank you, Luke. Do you know what percentage of student employees are currently making less than 1050?
I currently do not.
Can I have a follow-up?
Yeah, you're permitted.
Do you have any like ballpark estimate of what the student or what, let's say this, what's your rationale in the proposed amendment behind eliminating the student fee increase portion of the question? Right? The point here is to say, look, we can do this, but here's the cost. Why are we not doing that for the 1050?
Well, because since we don't have a cost and, the elections are going to be commencing in February 1st, I want them to have at least something to vote on in regards to this referendum. And I think that a values vote of $10.50 would be something that we need to hear from our constituents.
Okay, any further questions? As there are no further questions, we'll now move on to speeches of negation or affirmation. Holly's making a motion. Holly? What amendment, the 1050? Okay, can I get a second? All right, second from Chris. Any objections? All right, as there are no objections, we'll be voting on making an amendment to change it from 15 to 1050.
I'll get that in.
Yeah, what's up? And cutting off the end part. I'm gonna give a speech of negation to the, all right, now we'll do to the amendment, but sorry. It's too late, so
No one objected.
yeah, it's too late. I can't do it. It's fine. Could you withdraw? Is that okay? Just quickly, I just wanted to say a point. Sorry. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Very much. Okay. Anyway, let's go for like 12. I don't know. I think that's reasonable. Like, and I think like including inflation or whatever, right? Like, that's like, okay, like 15 is probably a lot for the area that we live in and the cost of living or whatever. That's fine. But I would say 12. I think that's like a pretty reasonable thing. So that's mine. But I don't know. I mean, that's, if you have opinions about that, let me know. But
Well, are we in committee of the whole? I guess I'm confused.
sorry. Okay. So I withdrew the amendment, but we can vote on 1050 first and then we'll see. But okay, let's vote on 1050.
Sadie had a point of information. I
Sadie has
think.
points.
I also have a point of information. Does our constitution not require a ballot question to have a certain number of signatures before it's approved?
That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
Because that's what Womlink told me. And if that hasn't happened yet, then we're technically not even allowed to consider this.
It does not. At least in my reading of like the referendum section of the Student Senate Constitution.
Which section is that, Alessia?
Let me pull it up here. Should be Title IX. Oh, no, Title VIII. All right, so as we can see here, see, shall be in effect. Where is this here? Is there any referendum or initiative? So, yeah, the normal procedure followed during a regular student senate election shall be in effect during a referendum. 10% of the eligible student body must vote in the referendum elections for the result to have any effect. The Elections Commission shall tabulate the results. If the proposed legislation receives over 50% of the vote, it shall be treated as an irregular enactment of the Student Senate, but shall not be subject to the veto of the student body president or to revision by the Student Senate at any time at any action during the next 12 months. If the proposed legislation receives less than 50% of the vote, it shall be treated as a regular defeated motion. If the proposed ledge receives less than 10% of the eligible student body votes, it shall be treated as a tabled motion, only to be returned to referendum in the next regularly scheduled student senate elections. Yes.
So this is
It's you're good. You can.
So this is mostly for sorry, like referendums that have legislation attached. If I'm reading this, this is mostly to get student opinions on what the Students' Assembly should do later.
Yes,
Is that
with
still
the legislation, yes.
Okay, great.
How,
Kim,
yeah, how does this get on the, how does a question get on the ballot though? There's no procedure outlined for that. Where in the Constitution does it specify how it gets on the ballot? Because this says how we vote on it.
Believe that was in Title II here. Because it's a type of bill to be introduced. And general provisions.
I found it. It's Title 8, Article 2, Section M.
If a student senate election is not scheduled within 6 weeks, the student
Or
assembly.
Section L, sorry.
Section L, may by a 2/3 vote place any legislation, including student generated initiatives upon a referendum ballot. Oh, so yeah, students assembly by a 2/3 vote. I knew that was somewhere. Oh, it was in the petition section, wasn't it? Correct.
What do you mean?
It looks like, yeah, it was in the petition section instead of the referendum section because it was related to that.
Right, a motion from
Like-
Holly. You can, if you want to do 1050, go for 1050, but yeah. I would personally, I mean, I'd like discussion on this honestly, because this is a
Okay.
huge deal. Because if
Can
this
we
gets
move-
knocked down, then it's going to be the university saying, okay, we don't need to raise student wages at all, because clearly the students don't think
Can we
that.
motion
So
to committee of the whole?
I will motion to committee of the whole. All right, can I get motion? Okay, Anthony and second from Chris. All right, Holly?
I guess my perspective on this is like, either way, I don't think it's feasible with the current, and I mean, Camden might have more knowledge on this with fee, but like with everything we did with transit last year and the fact that they didn't really get the increase they needed, we have to stay in between like 4 to 5% for the regents.
It's 3 to
Of-
4, sorry.
3 to 4, sorry. Okay, my bad. It was 4 to 5, they changed it, I guess. We have to stay within that for them to even like agree or consider our fee. Otherwise, they could potentially put us back down to no increase, which I don't think they'll do. But if we do this and then have to put it into action, plus everything else we need to pay for across campus, I feel like it's we don't have the money to do it, basically, is what I'm going to say.
Okay, Kim?
Yeah, I'm gonna second everything Holly said there. I think that this is one of those instances where a really well-intentioned sentiment has to meet fiscal reality, and the fiscal reality is that there is too many problems with this where I think that we can in good faith consider it. The first is that we have no idea how much it's going to cost, right? The $15 proposal was sent out to the fee managers like, okay, hey, what does your scenario look like if you have to pay students $15 an hour, right? And this doesn't mention the fact that it doesn't just raise everybody up to 15. If a student is already making more than 15, then in order to fight wage compression, like all the wages have to go up across the board. So it's going to be hugely expensive. And the only expense that we're actually going to know is the expense to raise wages to $15. Right? This last minute change essentially means that one, we don't know how many students are making less than $10.50 because the fee managers weren't asked that. And two, we have no way of knowing how much it's going to cost. This is the equivalent of swiping a credit card of student money without actually knowing what the total is. Right? To me, that's lunacy. I don't think we can do that in good faith.
All right, I'm gonna make a point. I think that the referendum is it's a goal. The students get to vote on what they want to see at the university, right? Also, the reality is dining has massive shortages. There's a reason we have all these iPad kiosks now, like in workers. Like nobody wants to work for it because why would you go do that? Because it just pays nothing. All right. The thing is, what K-State did, and they found a way to do this, is they privatized like the entire union. Basically, you go there now, and they just have like restaurants. So you can go to like, Panda Express, or you can go to Popeyes, you can go to wherever. Get your fast food instead of having what we have, which is like kind of the semi-operated like government, food entities, basically dining services. Their dining services in reality, I'm reticent to do that because there's a lot of student worker jobs and stuff that we are allowed to protect at KU as a student government body, and they're not at the whims of the private sector. But at the same point, it seems like clearly they have like a little better system for their unions and the food offerings that are there, and it's like cheaper and probably more efficient and faster. All that being said, I don't know. I think this is a referendum, and then maybe for next year, we could bump to 12 at least, something like that. Blake, did you have something? Okay, Holly? Sadie has a point.
Did I
Yeah,
also see a question from Kevin?
yeah, Kevin.
I was just gonna ask if we wouldn't be able to, I see a lot of like discourse over here and that's great, but I also see most of that coming from Studex. So maybe this is more of a Studex problem that Studex should fix before we vote on it in full Senate as student senators. And I was just wanted to throw that out there as a question. Sadie, you can go ahead and go.
Is the mic working back there?
No, you're okay.
I was just gonna say on this, it's like worth noting that I think 12 is reached, I think 15 is too. 1050, most of our fees are already at 1050 equivalent or higher. And then the ones who aren't too, like, it's been an ongoing conversation for the past 3 years to get them there, like as long as I've been in fee, and like most are there. But I was gonna say with this too, like it wouldn't be binding for this fiscal year, it'd be coming into effect and then into the next one, which would give ample time if it was at 1050. And also all the other Cape boards, most of the other Cape board schools have a minimum wage like initiated by students and they're higher than ours. I had that conversation with them last week. So it would be on par with our peer institutions, which is what I'm saying. But that's all. Just some like additional context to chew on, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess my question then would be to Sadie, like, you think that if it was put on the ballot for 1050, that's reasonable and something that could be done for next year? Okay.
Yeah, I think 1050 is reasonable, and I think it's also on par. Like whenever we brought this up in conversations with like, I think it was pros, but it's on par with like where the university is going at 1050 and things. So I don't think that's like, I don't think it's inactionable, if that makes sense. 15 on the other hand, or 12, I think would be misleading the student body if we put that on a ballot.
Yeah, I was also going to say, I think at the end of the day, like more than cost, this also comes to a value question of like what we're, willing to pay students for their labor here on campus, especially students like international students who can only do on-campus work, like making sure that those wages can accommodate the rising cost of living in Lawrence, where, rent is on average about like 400, 500, which leads to about half of your paychecks, if you're at that wage already, going into rent alone. And so at the end of the day, I think 1050 would be a reasonable way to go. It's not enough, frankly, in my eyes, but it's a start.
I think the referendum though could serve as more of a values question is how I see it. It's not like something that's like whatever we decide, we don't have control over the union fee. Like we don't have control over we don't have control over their budget like directly. So, but I see the point on practicality of it. And that's meritorious. And we probably shouldn't mislead them so much. I'm going to go for 11, just 11. I think that's. All right. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I understand the appeal of making this like a values question, especially for like 15, but with not having the like an estimate of how much the student fee is going to go up, the question just reads as, would you like us to give people more money? This isn't going to cost you anything. I think 1050 is a good target for something that we can reasonably achieve. It's something that we're trying to achieve like alongside the university. I think it's a good target.
And did we ever get like the projections on like what this would like raising the fee, how much we'd have to raise the fee for this to be possible?
No, because the amount that we asked was 15, not 1050. We're flying blind here. We have absolutely. Sadie, go ahead, unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, I think that's not true. Can you hear me? Okay. Last year in the fee packet, we had questions for what would it look like if your fee was raised to 10, 12, 15 and $15, I think, or like 11, 50, 12. There's a range that we had in last year's packet. So I'll go through my files and find that.
All right, Austin.
I will say an interesting fact as well. Oh, sorry.
You can go.
I will say an interesting fact as well. When we did implement the $10.50 wage for student Senate employees during the summer of 2021, it has actually been found that the wage inflation in regards to that has dropped the wage to about $9.66 with what we've dealt with in the economy. So that's also good information to know in relation to like what the actual impact of that wage has on students.
Austin.
Kind of have a point of information and then just like a really quick
Yeah,
question.
you're good.
I'll try to make it concise to save y'all's time. I think that $11 would be a good goal because I mean, if we account for about 5% over the 1050 rate, which seems to be, I'm just spitballing, I have no evidence to back this up, but it seems to be kind of around the benchmark for what student wages are now. I think that would be something that would be interesting to explore. Also, Sam mentioned something about privatization of dining options. I think it would be interesting, like consider like one, how do we know that we would preserve the same number of student employees? Two, how do we ensure that that demand side like pressure to increase wages privately occurs? And three, how do we make sure that we serve enough volume in terms of like meals being delivered to students for people who, for instance, live in residence halls who need to have that volume capacity to be able to serve that many meals?
Was there a question there to?
Yeah, it was a 3-part question.
Okay.
Right. In relation to that, I think it could be a good idea to maybe investigate the unions and like what their employment is like, especially since they are one of the largest student employers on campus. But I will say, like, in terms of like wage conversations, they start at $11.50 and they're still struggling. Like in terms of like what we're considering in terms of like hiring shortages, like we could consider 11, and I think that might be, you know, an actionable goal for us to pursue in the next semester. But on the other side, you know, at the same rate, like the unions are employing at these wages of $11.50 to $15, and they're still not, you know, maintaining employees at the rate they used to. And so whether that's related to economic compression or other factors, I wouldn't know, but it could be something worth exploring.
Anthony?
Yeah, so I think there's two big things here. The first is like you were saying with cap and making sure we keep the same amount of employees. If our cap of how much we can spend on salaries doesn't change, then the amount of students that we employ has to. For instance, if you have, you know, $90 an hour to spend on employees, do you want to hire 9 students for $10 an hour, or do you want to hire 6 students for $15 an hour? And there's 3 students that have to go find a job. And then the second thing is that I think it's important to remember that minimum wage is different than living wage. Living wage in Lawrence, Kansas, according to MIT, whatever they did, is $16.65 an hour. We're not going to hit that. There's no way. And so minimum wage also has to go up with inflation and all that. But how much is it our responsibility to raise the minimum wage for part-time workers?
Danae? No, he's finished.
Oh, well, we're
On
still
the
in
amendment?
committee of the whole.
Yeah.
With one amendment.
Can we just see where we're leaning before we exit committee of the whole, like in terms of a number?
Like on what the numbers? Like
Yeah, like can we just do like sort of like hand?
All right, yeah, I'm gonna throw out 3 numbers, okay? 10, 50, 11, and 12. All right, is it 15? Sorry, you're right. Okay, I'm gonna scrap 12. No, I'm gonna go for it. Okay, so 10, 50. Sorry, thank you. 10, 50, 11, 12, 15. Okay, 10, 50. Please raise your hand if you want 10, 50. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's 8 for 10, 50. 11. 1, 2. It's looking like 19, 20 right now. 19 for 20 for 11. Okay, 12. That's a lot too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think it's 12. You raised your hand twice, so okay, you like both. Okay, cool. Thank you. 15.
Seems to be a
Okay,
start.
so I'm gonna say the top 2 in the runoff then were 11 and 12. Does anybody disagree with me on that?
Can I propose 11.50 in the runoff as well?
That's
Might as well.
no,
right?
because
I
it's
mean,
3 though. We need to have a majority. We need to have plurality.
Yeah.
So I'd go for 2 because. Okay, all right, 11. Raise your hand, please. Okay. Yeah, what's up? We're voting. We're in the committee of the whole.
Do you want me to rant right now? It's like literally 2 minutes. Okay, perfect.
Just be quick.
Yeah, sorry. So I've actually sat down with the guys over at the union, phenomenal people, and the guys over at Downing, and I'm gonna try to sort of break it down into twofold. One, address the point of privatization, but then secondly, talk about fees or talk about the wages. In terms of prioritization, the union strategy with that, by the way, the unions controls dining. If anyone isn't sort of familiar with the structure, it's kind of confusing. The Memorial Union runs our dining. It's also a bookstore and a couple of other operations. The folks of the union are actively looking to other strategies in regards to dining. That's irrespective of what we do as a Senate. That's more so based upon how they feel and what they feel is strategic, not just for them, but also for KU students. Ultimately, that's their position. They have done a lot of sort of research, a lot of digging, a lot of communication with different individuals and different groups, including JL community partners. And so what they do over there is irrespective of what we do here, but they are sort of making strategies that are in the best interest for students. Now, I want to talk about wages. So I've done a little bit of research into this actually. I sat down with them, and off of sort of my outlook, the baseline is $10 everywhere. Really, the only places you're going to find $8 are, I guess, in labs or other departmental opportunities. But the biggest sort of payers, employers on campus are all paying $10 at the minimum. Unions pays a little bit more, dining pays a little bit more. And their strategy with that has been sort of increasing, one, based upon sort of the demand of their job is making sure that their wages are competitive, but secondly, also keeping in mind living wages of our students. Now, to sort of sit away from our findings, what we've seen talking to unions, what we've seen emailing people asking for data regarding their figures regarding employment and wages, I think what's really important to understand is, I mean, we're going to sit here and debate what 10, 50, 11, 12. I think what we need to sort of symbolize the Student Senate is a strategy moving forward. We're looking forward in the next 2-3 years as the living wage increases, as prices increase. We need to have a system in place for our students' wages to be changed over time. I think that's our strategy. Create something sustainable that's revisited. Trying to work on that currently right now, but I think that ultimately that should be our mission. So sitting here and debating 10, 50, 11, 12, yes, we can sort of disagree on the 50 cents dollar difference, but ultimately these are marginal when it comes to the grander scale of things because they're 5% increases to what, 10, 20. Let's think about how can we make a system in place for our students to have adjusted wages moving forward, for our students to, for wages to be on the forefront of both administrations and our employers on campus. Because again, Holly made a point that's really important. International students can only work on campus. And so keeping that in mind and keeping other sort of really sensitive situations in mind is really important. And yeah, that's my spiel for today.
Thank you. Okay. So we're gonna go still. I would note as well, like Kansas has a $3 billion budget surplus right now. And so I think maybe we should be like working to like work with them to maybe, I don't know, fund us a little more. But anyway, it's almost 8. So we have 2 more bills. So let's keep going. All right. So 11, 1150, 12, those are the options. 11, please raise your hand for 11. All right. 1, 2, 3. 2. Okay, 22 for 11, 1150. Okay, 12. Okay, I'm gonna do, can you put it in the chat, 11 and 12? Thank you. Just so we know. Right, but it was like, it was on the edge. It was 22.
I mean,
like the count wasn't exact because people throw out their hands and out. So I just want to have that on the record exact. There's no arguments, and then we can decide.
Do formal voting in committee of the whole.
It's not a formal, it's just a chat poll.
Okay.
No, you don't need to. All right, it's up for a minute on this. Okay, 11 for Anthony. Great. Is anybody else not voted yet that needs to vote? Okay. Okay, it looks like 11 is 1, 23 to 14. So that again, this is all non-binding, but if somebody would like to, Holly. Cool. Okay, can I get a second on that? Second from Trey. Great. Any objections to that? No? Awesome.
Any other speeches in regards to this legislation before we move to a vote? Camden? All right, Camden has a negative speech. Oh. Oh, did you motion to vote? Oh, I thought that was motioning in regards to the amendment.
No, we had a motion to amend it and then vote on the amendment.
Ah, okay, yes. All right, and it first and seconded. Do you object, Camden, then?
So this is on the amendment, not the actual bill itself. Yeah. So when are we gonna go to vote? That's all I care about. Okay.
With the elected dollars.
Yeah, well, that's what I have a speech on.
Oh, well, okay, so the motion that Holly made was a motion to do the amendment and then move to a vote on the bill after.
Okay.
And then no one objected to that motion.
I do object, because I have a speech.
Okay, all right.
Second.
All right, so with an objection on the floor, Holly, would you like to reintroduce the motion? Or would you like to reintroduce it, or would you like it to go on a pass-fail vote? All right. Then can you go ahead and get that in the chat? The minutes vote? I already deleted it. Yeah, it matters for names.
Holly's was a two-parter. It was to go out of committee to.
All right, everyone, just to make sure everyone is understanding, the motion was a two-parter in that it added the amendment of $11 and then it moved to a vote. And so that's what we're now moving to a vote on, is whether or not we will vote on this legislation and amend it. And so, do you approve the amendment? Huh?
You're not considering the motion separately, if one did amendment. and then-
Well, the motions weren't made and seconded separately is the issue.
Not allowed to compound different votes. When you're moving on, you have to do each vote individually.
Well, you are if it's accepted by the chamber, which was the issue here.
So it's something, are we? Something going on?
Nobody objected to voting on this amendment, so now we're voting on the amendment.
Yeah.
Cool, great.
Are we? Holly, will you withdraw your motion and maybe go for a motion to amend, then motion to vote? Okay. Then yeah, do you approve Holly's motion? Huh?
I objected.
You objected? Yeah, we're going to the vote now on the dual motion here. Yes,
Point of information is if you want the floor to be open for speeches, then you have to vote no on this. Is that correct?
yes,
Okay.
Do you agree with my motion?
yes. Do you agree with Holly's motion?
Does my name have to be in it? Cause like, we're not supposed to do that.
Do you agree with the motion? All right, that poll has now been generated. Do you agree with the motion? Yes, if you do, no, if you do not, abstain to stay out of the discussion. A reminder that this will require a simple majority to pass.
This motion would end the debate on the amendment.
Yes, you're correct, 2/3. Penny? You vote no? Can we get?
Hey, what's up?
Don't forget, I would agree with you guys with this, so there is a right. Dude, I would prove it actually. Yeah, they did. You guys.
There's a kid in one of my classes. Yeah. And she went to Valpo, like. Light school, like he was learning. Right. Dude, well, we're trying to people. It's in the. They got a virus.
Oh, what I say, You can go 6
All right, has anyone not voted on this motion that would like to do so? All right, seeing none, we will now close the vote. And with a vote of 16 in the affirmative, 24 in the negative, and 1 abstention, this motion clearly fails. All right, does anyone want to reintroduce any other motions in regards to the amendment to amend the legislation? All right, to 11 an hour and to disinclude the part that was. All right, thank you, Kevin. And do we have a second in regards to that, Chris? All right, is there anyone in opposition to amending the legislation to be $11 an hour and not include the estimate? Oh, do we have someone against? You object? All right, then with that objection, we will move to a vote on the amendment. Huh? David? Yes. Here, can you get a microphone so I could hear you more clearly? What was your point of inquiry?
So crossing out that last line, is that what we're doing? Is that the amendment?
The amendment is to cross out that last line and then make it $11.
Yeah, I object. I think we should keep it at 11 and keep that line in.
Okay.
I amend my motion to keep line.
I will say we don't have the current estimate for that.
Yeah, I just think I think students deserve to know that they're going to get charged for that. That's my
Mhm.
opinion.
I feel like.
Sadie, are we able to get the current estimate in regards to that? Mm.
Well, I'm not even saying it has to be exact, but I think just in general that they should know that they're going to be
Well,
charged.
The problem would be if it's not exact, then we're kind of not giving the full truth. We could just not have the dollar number.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
All right, Sadie, does that work for you? Yeah, all right, so as the amendment now stands, it would be $11 an hour with an associated required campus fee increase. Does that sound reasonable to everyone? All right, Kevin, can you make your motion?
Motion to amend the bill as stated.
All right, do we have a second? All right, I see a second from David back there. Do we have any objections in regards to this amendment? Going once, going twice. All right, the bill is amended. Now we will look into negative positive speeches. Camden with a negative speech. You will have 2 minutes.
Okay, so as you all recalled me hearing in the committee of the whole, I have a few problems with this. The first is that we are essentially swiping the credit card on student money with no earthly clue as to how much it's going to cost. And I understand that Sadie, has the data from previous years, but that we have no idea how current that is, how the number of student employees has changed. This is at best a shot in the dark, and still that isn't very good. I just want to say, even with this amendment, right, is we want to increase student wages. We don't know how much it's going to cost, but it's going to cost something. Like, think to yourselves what this actually tells the people voting on it. right? Like, how is it that we can ask the student body to say, okay, do you want to raise wages? Of course, they're going to say yes, but we can't even tell them how much it's going to cost. Like, I understand that I have a position, fee chair, that's student fee is my job. I am perhaps most acutely aware of the fact that every dollar that we spend has to come out of the student pocket, right? But I think it is overly optimistic and frankly unrealistic to just assume that we're going to be able to make this happen, because we're not going to be able to make this happen necessarily. The $15 an hour proposal was discussed with myself and the fee managers. We will have a cost estimate for the $15 an hour proposal, which is why I think if we have this referendum, it has to be with the $15 an hour proposal, because that is the only one that we are going to be able to present a reasonable ballpark for how much it costs. In my view, it is frankly ridiculous to have a referendum on a major policy change that will require an increase in the student fee without having any inkling as to what that increase will entail. To me, that is lunacy, and I urge you all to vote with me in rejecting this referendum. Thank you.
Any questions for Camden? Sadie, did you have a question back here?
I didn't have a question, but a good point was brought up in that a lot of the wages aren't covered by the fee directly. Like we fund the fee entities, but not necessarily their student wages. So if we were to raise it, it would be like additional costs that we couldn't even math out with the data we have.
Thank you, Sadie. All right, question from Anthony. And we have 3 seconds, but I'll let you ask your question and let Camden answer.
If fee is required to spend the money on these wage increases, is fee going to have to take away money from other student organizations, other student options like Watkins, everything like that?
Absolutely. That will absolutely happen. Student services will suffer as a result of this change. And I want to point out that I am not fighting on behalf of me. Okay. Hopefully, I hope to God that the fee package is finalized by the time we have the results for this referendum. Okay. But whoever has my job next year is walking into a literal minefield with this. This is taking a political and economic disaster and passing it on to somebody else. I cannot emphasize enough the point that Mr. Hudson just brought up. And I want to again reiterate my fierce opposition to this referendum.
Holly, did you want to ask a question? If so, we need to extend time. Motion to extend from Anthony. 2 minutes. Holly, would you second? 2-minute time extension. All right, I see Farzad seconding, so. All right. Any other questions on the floor before I start the timer again? All right, Holly, you have the floor.
So this might be very stupid, but isn't asking the students a question, like we're not binded to it. We're asking them what they think. Like we're not binded to the fact that if we ask them what they think, that we have to do it or the next administration has to do it. We're asking them how they feel about having an increase that will result in their required campus fee increasing. We're not saying that we're necessarily going to do it. We're asking them a question, right?
That would be correct.
So I don't understand, like, if it's not binding, then why can't we just ask them a question and see what they think? Because like the 40 of us in a room or whatever, we're not the whole campus. So the whole campus should have a say, should they not?
Yeah, well, Camden, that's your question here.
Yeah, that's my question to you, Camden.
Yeah, no, and I understand where you're coming from, Holly, and I know I'm not operating under the presumption that this is like a binding, like you have to do it. But my counterpoint to, well, the referendum isn't binding is, well, then what the hell's the point of the referendum? I mean, if we're not going to stick to the promise that we're essentially making to the student body by giving them a voice, like, yeah, here's what's going to happen if you vote yes on it. I mean, what does that say about our legitimacy as a governing body? And I'm even hesitant to use that term, for an SGA. In my mind, it is far more hazardous to have the referendum and make promises we know that we are not going to be able to keep than it is to just not have the referendum at all.
Farzad. And then I have a question back here. What was your name? Emma.
So can we, during the fee meetings, mandate that wage data be given alongside employee counts over the past few years? Because they should have access to that if they're running their program.
Yeah, we typically do. The data's there. Like as Sadie pointed out, this is all so much more complicated. And here's the list of all student employees and what they make. I mean, there are so many knock-on and ripple effects from a change like this. It's hard to even imagine.
So,
but
for the next
Oh,
fee
wait,
measure,
we do have another question on the floor. I also need a motion for a time extension. I see a motion from Angela for how much? 5 minutes? Do I see a second? Second from Vander. Is there anyone who objects to a 5-minute extension to time? Seeing none, time is extended. Emma, you're next. And then Farzad, would you like me to come back to you? All right, perfect. Any other questions? All right, Emma? Oh, did the catch box?
It did not go well. Okay, so I have the question, if we pass it as it is now, are you going to put the dollar amount that the fee would increase by? Or would the students only have this vague required campus fee increase?
This is all that the students would have, and this is my principal opposition to this bill. I don't think that you can ask a value question. Like ask yourself, right? If I was presented with the proposition, should student wages increase? In what world am I going to say no to that? Right? The reality, the unfortunate reality of any decision that has to be made is that there's a trade-off, there's a cost. Right? That money has to come from somewhere. In this case, it is from the pockets of the student body. I think it is ridiculous, and to get to the heart of your question, that this is all the student body will have access to when deciding whether or not money should come out of their wallets to go into somebody else's, not knowing how much damn money is going to be coming out of their wallet. To me, that is ridiculous.
Can I propose an amendment? Well, actually, I have a question.
Well, currently Farzad has the next question here. You'll give up your question? All right, continue.
How long would it take to like get that number?
That is a fantastic, I honestly couldn't tell you. I mean, that is the fee packets that we sent out to the fee managers included questions like how much would the increase, or how much would your fee have to increase in order to accommodate like a $15 minimum wage, like a $13 minimum wage. And that alone takes the fee managers months. I mean, it's months. It is a process for them, to go and do all the math and run the numbers and make decisions about which jobs they're going to cut. Because again, I highly doubt that a fee manager is like, okay, they want to raise wages to $15. I'm just going to raise everybody off the benchmark, right? That's not how the fundamental economics of these systems work. And so to answer your question, Emma, I have no idea. I wish I could give you a better example, but there's just too many moving parts for me to speculate as to when we would have this number by.
All right, next question I have here is from Austin and then to Farzad.
Thank you, Camden. This is just kind of a question in general. What is the definition of referendum as per Student Senate Constitution? Because there's nothing actionable nor binding about this referendum, which makes me question, why can we not just have a survey? Why does this have to be passed as a referendum? There's nothing actionable nor binding about it whatsoever.
I totally agree. I think that was a rhetorical question. Is that a correct? Okay, cool.
Sort of.
All right, and Farzad?
Yeah, so regardless of how much time it takes, can we put this process into place? So that way by next year, we can have those projections ready if this topic resurfaces.
Yeah, we can. That's a discussion that we'll have to have with Casey. It's probably not going to be popular among the fee managers, in all honesty. I see you nodding your head back there. Said he is. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can work on that. That's a discussion to be had in fee, though, in terms of the actual logistics of how it's going to work for Azad. But I agree with you. I think there needs to be some mechanism in place for assessing precise impacts on increases in student wages.
That's all.
I will also say alternatively, if you did want to make the language binding, it would be basically as simple as sort of saying like this would ask the fee review committee to do this instead of saying, do you have an opinion in regards to this? Any other questions? Oh, Holly. We have a minute 30 left in speakers time. So whenever the
Let me sit
speaker is
down.
finished. Any other questions? Question from Chris?
So you are wanting no referendum question, right?
I think you should vote no in the bill.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you, Camden. And I see a motion from Holly to vote on the currently amended version. And then second from Sam. All right, is there anyone who objects to voting on the currently amended version of the legislation? Seeing none, we will be moving towards a vote on the 11 an hour with an associated required campus fee increase. So if you could get that in there, do you approve Senate Bill 2023-44? And a reminder that since this is a referendum bill, it will require a 2/3 vote to pass.
For the D committee, if I bring up that we should find a way to standardize most of this data for a wage increase. Okay, thanks, appreciate it. Yeah. Really depends on how legitimate they hold this as a government to be. I only have like 100 something people.
Ender.
Most people I know that don't know that they pay a fee and don't know that we exist as a city. So. Did you do policy debate? Okay, we're at. With Camden? Yeah. Oh,
All right, anyone else who would like to vote on, oh, I just saw a vote roll in. I'll give 30 seconds additionally to vote on this, but then we'll look to close this vote.
He's a big fish.
All right, is there anyone else who has not voted on this that wishes to do so? Seeing none, we will look to close this vote. And with a vote of 7 in the affirmative, 35 in the negative, and 1 abstention, this motion clearly fails. All right, now we'll go on to the next item of our regular agenda here, which is the Senate Resolution 2023-304, a resolution to call upon the University of Kansas to condemn Kansas Senate Bill 12, presented by Sam. Do you need more time?
3.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so I don't know if you all have caught up. I was just kind of driving one day, listening to NPR as I do, and they brought it up, right? Kansas State House. There's a resolution coming out. Mike Thompson and Mark Steppen basically proposed a bill to ban gender-affirming care for those under age 21 and younger in the state. That means like anything like any reassignment surgeries, any sort of trans healthcare related. I think it's incumbent upon the University of Kansas and the administration of the University of Kansas to speak out and openly speak out against this. This is like, obviously transphobia and bigotry and whatnot. I think it represents the state horribly as well. I mean, first and foremost, we should be protecting the trans students that belong at our university and are here, especially our freaking vice president. And like everybody who's here, right? And like the hundreds of people that go through hell and the gay kids that I knew in my high school and in my life, and especially me as somebody who kind of struggled with my own sexuality for a while in high school and having people that speak up and are, in our legislature making people's lives hell, right? No, that's what it is. Honestly, these people need to get called out for this crap. It's coming out of Topeka. And so I'm going to make an amendment as well. We're going to send it to the other student governments, but, this does not represent Kansas. This does not represent the Kansas I know. And I think we should say something about it. So, and I think that KU admin should call it out too, because it definitely does not represent the University of Kansas that I know. So that's all.
Yeah. All right, any questions for Sam? Oh, did I see a motion to vote? There, huh? Well, yeah, we need to get the amendment in and let's see.
Do you have the amended?
I have the amended version, yeah, here. Let me get that up here so that y'all can see the amendment before we vote on it. All right, so the amendment would just add another section here at the end here.
It's in the Teams, right?
Huh?
Isn't in the, did you post it in the Teams?
I'm posting it on the legislation itself.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Since we do have Drive, I felt incumbent to use it.
Sorry for the language. I didn't mean that. It kind of just boiled up, but yeah, I don't know, like, anyway.
All right, so in regards to the amendment, it would read as follows. Therefore, be it further resolved that the University of Kansas Student Senate calls upon student governments across the state of Kansas to support transgender students in their own communities who could be affected by the introduction of Senate Bill 12. And then also adds the following recipients: Dr. Nicole Hodges Persley, the Vice Provost for DEIB at KU, Senator Ty Masterson, President of the Kansas Senate, Representative Daniel Hawkins, Speaker of the Kansas House, Senator Beverly Gosage, Chair of the Kansas Senate Committee on Public Health and Welfare, Senator Pat Petty, Ranking Minority Member of the Kansas Senate Committee on Public Health and Welfare, Senator Kelly Warren, Chair of the Kansas Senate Committee on Judiciary, Senator Ethan Corson, Ranking Minority Member of the Kansas Kansas Senate Committee on Judiciary, John Kirk, the WSU Student Body President, Parker Volgamore, K-State Student Body President, Ryan Stanley, the Fort Hays State Student Body President, Bella Price, the Emporia State Student Body President, Jaden Haynes, Washburn University Student Body President, and then last, the authors, Senator Mike Thompson of Kansas Senate District 10, and Senator Mark Steffen of Kansas Senate District 34. Any questions on the amendment? Yes?
I'm sorry. Why those specific committees of the Kansas legislature?
Those are the committees in the Senate where this legislation is being considered.
I see, thank you.
Of course. Motion to vote from Holly? Oh, yeah, second from Austin here. All right, anyone who objects to this amendment as it's been read in? All right, seeing none, the amendment is approved. And do we see a motion to vote on the legislation? Motion to vote from Austin, second from Holly. All right, and is there anyone who objects to moving towards a vote on this resolution? All right, seeing none, can you issue a vote? Thank you very much, Sam. All right, and then do you approve Senate resolution? You can just put SR. Do you approve SR 2023-304? Do you need me to put it in or?
Madam Vice President.
Yes,
While the vote is pending, can we ask to be made co-sponsors of legislation?
you can. Yeah, do you want me to go ahead and create that at the bottom of the poll as well? All right. Here, oh, did you get it? Awesome. Yes, Vander? All right, perfect. SR 2023-304. Right. Let's say maybe. Oh.
Anthony's question.
Yes, Anthony? Vote no. All right. Is it popping up in the assembly? I'm not seeing it in the channel.
Oh, I just know that they.
Can you just delete that? Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll go ahead and get it put up since we're having some technical issues up here. All right, that's been added there. Do you approve SR 2023-304. Yes, if you do, no, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. And let me go ahead and add this. I'm adding. All right, and I put a section under the vote for sponsors of 2023-304. If you can just reply under that, that'll be what we use to get you on the legislation. Oh, or alternatively, you can just like it. And if the name on your teams is what you'd like to be reported on there, then we could also go with that. And, all right, so Bander wanted to put in a voice vote for yes. And then Anthony wanted to put in a voice vote for no. Huh? Yeah, but you would put it in the minutes. No? Okay. Or were you able to get a vote in this time, or is it, oh wait, no, Teams is still. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, additionally, as I'm seeing coming through here, if you would like your title also included, you can put that in the reply there. All right, is there anyone who has not voted on this matter that would like to do so? Or has the ability to? All right. Seeing none, we're going to move to close this vote. And with a vote of 38 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and 3 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. All right. And now we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is to confirm any elections commission or constitutional court nominations that the president has made. Sadie, do you have any nominations you'd like to bring to the floor for the EC? No? Cool. All right. And let's see, with that being the last item on our agenda, are there any announcements? Oh, an announcement from Nathaniel and Danae. You also had an announcement, I believe. You can go ahead and use that mic.
Okay, I guess this kind of announcement is just anyone who didn't attend councils, last cycle, I mean, this cycle, whatever. So yeah, the administration is taking a harder stance on attendance, and we will not be taking any more like excuses unless they're clearly in the Constitution. So I just wanted to let everyone know, 2 unexcused absences, you will be called in front of Studex, and if there is nothing you have to say for yourself, you will be removed. Not to take it harshly, but we need to start getting, harder on attendance, especially after votes were taken in councils that shot down the increased attendance bill. And I think that's a clear message from our senators that people want attendance to be taken harder. So sorry to be mean, but we kind of gotta.
Thank you very much for that, Nathaniel. And Danae, you had an announcement as well.
Also, the applications for State Higher Ed Day have now been opened, so they're going to be posted on the KU Student Senate website, also in the link tree on our Instagram, and then I'm also sending an email to all of you so that you'll have the link right there in your inbox. So, yeah.
All right, thank you for that, Danae. Any other announcements? Motion to adjourn?
Want to come to the game?
Anyone? Motion from Trey. I see a second from Madison. Anyone who objects? Resounding chairs moving. All right, so we are officially adjourned. Have a great evening.